Hello, Steve. Good morning. It is. I was just going to say good afternoon. I was so used to doing these in the afternoon, but it is good morning.
Good morning, Tony.
How are you today?
Yeah, good.
You've had a bit of a week of it.
Ground yesterday, so
yeah, that was good. Well, it's about the ground actually. I'd like to start, but first off, the very first question is that you've had a donations page running, and I've been watching the total going up and up and up, and I know the target was 5,000. How far are you off that target now?
I think we're about £170 as it stands off that target. So absolutely fantastic achievement from all our supporters, community, and in particularly some of our youth, Jack and Theo Santa, they stepped up and did some fundraising for us. And also one of our under 11s, Dexter, decided to run a marathon over a period of a week to raise money for us. Absolutely smashed his target and raised over £1,000. So that was absolutely fantastic to see. And really, not just from the money being raised, but lovely to see the youth seeing that they're part of the club now and wanting to raise money to help and see the club in good stead.
Well, that couldn't have been a better intro if I'd have asked it myself, because one of my questions to you was going to be about the integration of the junior setup with the senior club. Now, you would well know, and most people connected with the club will know, that historically, although we've tried very hard, we've never been able to amalgamate the two clubs together for whatever reason in its history. We won't go into that now, but thankfully with your connections with the junior club, then becoming chairman of the senior club, you've managed to achieve that. But my real question is, how have they felt becoming members of the senior club? How's it worked out for them?
I think it's worked out really well, far better than we expected. You always expect when you're bringing two clubs together, and there is a bit of history there, that there's going to be a few bumps in the road. But I'm pleased to say there haven't been. Everybody was part of the decision. That was something that we wanted to make sure. When I started first talking with Joe about bringing the two clubs closer together and working together, there was never a vision of me becoming chairman or him stepping down, but that's how it progressed. And we discussed it in length with the managers and coaches of the youth, and we all felt it was the right thing to do, right for the club, right for the children within the youth. And we really set out our vision to create pathways right way through from when children start with us at under 6, going right way through, with that possibility of playing senior football.
Well, that's absolutely fantastic. And I know that when the idea was first sort of put about the club, there were quite a few raised eyebrows, because I know a lot of the senior members won't mind me saying so, but we were a bit, and I'll include myself in that, we were a bit entrenched in the same old and the ways that what things were done. But, this is a breath of fresh air. You guys have come in, a lot of younger blood, which I've been advocating for years that we needed around the football club. And it really has done wonders. It really has.
Yeah, it's important when you come in, you've got a fresh set of eyes, so you do see things, but it isn't just come in and change everything. There's no point having change for change's sake. And I was very mindful of making sure that any changes we made were consulted on, discussed, and for the better of the club. And it's all about bringing the two clubs together, making the club sustainable and self-funding, and really creating those pathways, as we said, for the kids to come through the youth football, to the academy, to the reserves, and then hopefully, some of those players will have that opportunity to play in the first team.
Well, and to that end as well, you've brought in an academy, which has been, well, absolutely astounding. The growth in the last, let's say, 2 years has been just amazing. And how are they feeling with the way things are going as well, the academy?
The academy is going from strength to strength. Josh Algar, Football Futures, who runs the academy on our behalf, he's worked really hard to build that academy up, along with the club. And we've just entered our third year. We can now announce that we're now in the National Under-19s Alliance League. So that's a tough league. It's good standard of football. So it bridges that gap. It bridges that gap. Sorry, a little bit further in that transition to them being able to play senior football. So yeah, the academy goes from strength to strength, and I understand this season Josh has got a good set of students coming in, which will hopefully make the cut to go in his first team for that league.
And you've been very mindful of the fact that you've had to build bridges between two sections of the club, and also that you needed to reach out for sponsorship. But you've been very, very successful, and I would say very lucky as well to have the Fibertech UK Limited on board as the main club sponsor. Apart from all the other sponsors that there are, and they're boards around the ground, there's too many for me to run into now. But perhaps you could tell me a little bit more about your connection and indeed the involvement of Fibertech UK Limited.
Yeah, Steve and Val from Fundraising, they approached us. They were fairly new to the area. He's got some, history in supporting clubs elsewhere, and said that he wanted to support us. And his support has been absolutely fantastic. Not only being last season the first team sponsor, and also helping out with costs here and there. In the close season, he's, and whilst we're dealing with the non-football during the pandemic, he's provided support both financially and in the way of supplying us a lot of materials to enable us to get a lot of jobs that we needed to get done at the club, and also one or two jobs that were on the wish list for when funds presented themselves. And that's what we've been busy doing over the last 5 to 6 weeks, getting all that work done. So without their support, that just wouldn't have happened.
Well, I've seen them both around the ground, and they both look quite pleased to be there. And whenever I've seen them, they've all got a smile on their face, and it's always nice to see them down at the ground. We've had in the past where we've had sponsors, and they've been almost like a remote sponsor, where you're very happy for their involvement financially, but when there's a bit more of an emotional attachment, it does work both ways, doesn't it?
It does, and that's one key thing for us, I think, with all of our sponsors, is to not just ask them to support the club financially or by way of advertising the programme or on boards around the club, but to come down and be part of it and get involved. And that was very much our Sponsors Day, which we held back in the season, where we invited them all in, for a bit of hospitality and what have you, but to also see the club in action, and to form those links with the club, just not through sponsorship, but by getting involved and coming down on a Saturday or Tuesday night and watching the football.
Now, I know from the conversations that you and I have had over the last, let's say, 3 months when we've been in lockdown, I haven't been able to get to the ground, but you've kept me updated reasonably regularly with what's going on. But I understand now, just going back to Fibertech again, they've got a hand in the latest little venture you've got going on down there.
Yeah, we have done a lot of work. I mean, there's been all the painting and decorating and of the clubhouse and the buildings, the outbuildings, etc., which all needed a lot of maintenance. But also we needed to put in some walkways to the new academy classroom and the office, which when we had that wet February, really made a mess of all that area. So Fibertech supported us by providing all the materials to build that. And then you may be familiar in the ground where we have an area, it's a slight grassy bank, which a number of benches were situated on. But it was always a little bit difficult to walk and get up to that, particularly in the wet weather. So again, they've been very generous in providing us all the materials, and Gary, one of our youth coaches, is helping myself and others build a nice decking area with steps and everything for those benches to sit on. So that's the project we're working on at the moment.
Now that's the area, if I'm correct, up by the main committee room, isn't it? Up the top of the ground.
That's right.
Yeah. Referred to by the old supporters as the Wendy House, I believe. But it's far from a Wendy House. I think they were tongue in cheek. What happened originally, that was built as a tractor shed, for our equipment for the grass. But when they did the job, and it was done by a couple of our supporters, two brothers, they were the bricklayers and did all the work there. And when they actually finished it, everybody stood there and thought, well, this looks too good for a tractor shed. So it became the committee room. But talking of tractors, you've now got one.
We have, yes. Thanks again to a lot of fundraising from the youth and support with the Football Foundation providing us with a grant. We have purchased a new tractor with all the cutting equipment and maintenance equipment to look after the pitch, both here and where our youth play. So that was one of those big things on the list that we needed to achieve, and I'm pleased to say that we've got all that sorted now. So the pitch is looking really smart.
And during my time in the chair there, it was very, very obvious that we needed a better water supply. Now you will know, because you've investigated this a lot, that it's very, very expensive to get a decent high pressure supply in. And at the time when I'm talking about, which is probably, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago now, I know the figure quoted then, just to put a pipe connector inside the ground, but none of the other ancillary bits and pieces, was about £5,000. So I should imagine that they want now probably double, even treble that. But you've come up with a different solution.
Yeah, we did approach South East Water to look at getting new piping in and connections, etc. But it was very, very expensive. So what we've gone for is we've installed a 10,000 litre tank with a pump and pressure regulator. We've got a new water tractor. So effectively, that allows us to water the pitch, get the volume of water we need, and it's almost self-running. So John, our groundsman, he just sets it on its path and off it goes, and waters the pitch, does its thing, and then turns itself off at the end. So the days of going out there, as we have been, moving sprinklers around day after day with this hot weather, has finally come to an end, I'm pleased to say, and we have now got a fully automatic irrigation system in.
That's wonderful news, wonderful news. Now, I just wonder, this is a question that, it's an easy question. It's not a question that's going to shock you in any way, shape or form. How do you see your first full season as chairman? You were involved in the club previously, but this is going to be, well, it's a truncated season. So on your CV, seasons completed 0, but achievements so far fantastic. So how's it gone so far on the playing side of things? How do you think it's gone?
Well, it's been full on, it's to say the least. You know, there's been an awful lot to do. You know, from the start where we decided to bring the clubs together, restructure under a limited company, and all that was involved with that. The club has grown rapidly. Youth teams, we're now up to 22 youth teams. So whilst when we first came up with the concept and decided to move this forward, we didn't quite expect everything else to happen at the same time, which is good. It's all positive, but it certainly made the workload and the role feel almost like a full-time job. But it's been a pleasure to do. You know, I've got a fantastic team of people around me that are very supportive, hardworking. So without them, it just wouldn't have happened. You know, it's not a one-man band. It is literally, you know, everybody has pitched in, done their bit, and continues to do so. You know, and it's been. I've had a great relationship with Lloyd. You've talked about that in your quarantine chats, and you know, we do. We you know, Lloyd does his thing, I do mine, and we work really well together. So it's made the first season, or what we had of it, a lot easier than it could have been, and certainly much more enjoyable than I was anticipating, with all the changes coming and everything that needed to be done.
That's funny, you know, because I had a nice chat with Lloyd about 2 or 3 days ago, and we were talking about your relationship with each other. And he said to me, do you know, the funny thing is, this quarantine, he said, the lockdown has been really painful at times, but there's been other sides of it, he said, which has been a revelation. And he said, one of them is the amount of time that I've been able to spend with Steve. He said, because I've been helping down the ground, and he said, all of a sudden, I see a totally different side to the guy. and he said, I'm sure he probably does to me as well, but you know yourself, when you suddenly spend a couple of hours with someone in a situation where totally unrelated to your normal sort of like, although you were at the football club, you weren't chairman and manager, you were two guys with paintbrushes in your hand,
Yeah.
you know, doing work around the ground. And Lloyd, he said to me, he said, it was a fantastic experience. He's really revelled in it.
Yeah, it has been good. I think it's been good for everybody. You know, we're much more relaxed around each other. We've got to know each other outside of the football, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
You know, and yesterday we were all down there. We had a huge delivery of timber, which needed lugging from the car park, you know, around to where we're building this new decking. You know, we were all carrying this wood and having a chat and a beer, and it's been good. I think it's formed even stronger relationships between everybody, you know, sets us in good stead for when the season recommences.
Yeah, I think I had an email from him at something like squiddle o'clock last night that said, "Home at last, knackered." You probably felt the same. Yeah, so that was good. Steve, really just to sort of finish off a little bit, is there anything that you want to share with the supporters that maybe they don't know about, stuff that's going on around the club that you want to make them aware of? This is a good format for you.
Yeah. I think we've covered a lot, and you've covered a lot with Lloyd in the quarantine chats. But I think one of the questions that has been asked of me is what's happening with the 3G. You know, we're still on track. We still have that ambition to have a 3G pitch, so we can get more playing hours down there. That the club can be self-funding for all the reasons we said originally. Obviously, with the pandemic, that has set things back a little bit on our schedule. But we're still on track to you know, achieve our goals of getting a 3G installed, and it's progressing nicely. And again, one of the questions is, oh, why have you bought all this equipment and, you know, irrigation system? But it's still needed. We've still got a grass pitch. It has to be ready for when football starts, and a lot of that equipment will still be needed to maintain, you know, the 3G pitch. They still need a lot of maintenance and work. When you have one of those, certainly to keep it to the standard that we will need to keep it to.
And like everything, they're all evolving as well. And you and I were away at Ware when we went in that cup game, and they had such a wonderful setup there, and the pitch was just superb, wasn't it?
It was very good, and again, you know, chatting to them, as I have spoken to a number of clubs before we went down this path. You know, what were the benefits they were getting out of the pitch, and apart from the obvious ones of more playing time, you know, it's the revenue it can bring into the club, the other activities, you know, within closed seasons that you can do. One of the things that, you know, is very apparent is that football can't survive on just the money you get through the gate and the bar. You've got to, you know, think out of the box and generate other income. You rely on your sponsors and to bridge that gap. But you have to do other things, and the 3G it will be a big part of that.
And just in case people aren't aware of it, these artificial pitches, and you've got your new tractor, they do need a lot of maintenance, don't they?
They do, yeah. I mean, after the games, you still need to pull big brushes. The tractor will be used to do that, and depending on what type of a pitch we go for, whether it be cork crumb, rubber crumb, or there's a newer technology, sand crumb out there, you know, all of that needs to be maintained, topped up, and looked after. So nothing that we're doing at the club is going to be kind of wasted. You know, it's all with this in mind, so that whatever we do and whatever we put in will be supportive of years to come, not just a 5-minute fix, because we can't afford to do those.
Thank you, Steve. That's very informative, and you've been straightforward and upfront with your answers, which I appreciate. One last little thing, and this really revolves around the managers and coaches for the junior setup, because I don't want to paint them a picture that they're not nice guys in any way, shape, or form, these managers and coaches, but they're very protective over their own little environment. So how did they all take on board that they were going to be suddenly part of the big, you know, well, I'd say the big club, the senior club, as opposed to their own little, in inverted commas, fiefdom, kingdom, whatever you call it, where they're in charge of their own little thing? Because sometimes people's egos get in the way, don't they?
They do, but I'm pleased to say in our instance that hasn't been an issue at all. I mean, everybody was consulted from the very beginning. We don't really have a hierarchy within the youth. Despite being chairman, everything and every decision we made collectively. And this was a big decision. It was approved and agreed by everybody, and so everybody's been on board from the start. And I think the majority have really enjoyed the journey. There have been times where we've all said, with the amount of work, we've all still got full-time jobs and families to look after. And did we make the right decision? But we know deep down we have. And as I say, with all of us pulling together in the right direction, it makes it a lot easier, and everybody does their bit. So I couldn't ask more of them, to be honest. They've been so supportive, even when it's got a bit too much. They still turned up. They've still been there. Whether it be stewarding, manning the gates, tickets office, raising money from the horse racing nights and the bingo nights we've done, and the quiz nights, to being down there now, digging holes, concreting, painting, you name it. They're there doing it. So yeah, couldn't ask more of them.
Well done, Steve. Well, for me, that just about wraps the chat up today. But I'd like to say to Steve Clayton, Chairman of Whitstable Town, thank you so much for your time today. I know your time is precious, both work-wise and with the club. And from me, to thank all the supporters for the support that they've given to what we've been trying to do over this pandemic time, where we've been running our little quarantine chats. I know that they've been welcome, because honestly, we've had so many questions coming in. I've had people phoning me up. The response has been truly, truly great. So thanks to everybody out there from me and Lloyd, although Lloyd's not with me today. He's probably either down the ground or at home. I don't know where he is. But
we've all had a day off today, so.
All right, well, that just about wraps it up for me. So thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Tony.
And have a great Father's Day, eh?
Thank you.
Yeah, take care.